All right, today we're going to do some harvesting. Last time I stacked up all of the more finished stuff a little bit high on the side, and I don't know how well you can see this, but I can see that it's like kind of cracked and dried out over here. So I expect, my hope is that there won't be very many worms in there, so it'll be very easy to harvest some stuff. My wife asked for some so she could feed her house plant, and so we're gonna do that. Yeah, nice and dry. I'm just putting it down a little at a time, so if there is a big worm, I can pull them out. Also pull some of the bigger chunks out. I'm going to try to get some nicer castings this time because it is going in an inside plant. Yeah, those castings look good. Found one. It's not a perfect system, it's just better than any other I've used. And you still get some little stowaways, and that'll always happen. But you don't get very many big ones. So it's pretty easy to pull them all out. Now I'm digging a little bit deeper, so it is a little bit more moist down here, which is why I'm catching a few worms. So maybe I'll stop here. All right, that should be plenty for today. Let's go through the rest of my more finished stuff and just pull it up and aerate it. Yeah, it's much more moist now that I go down, which is why I packed the stuff way up. And now that it's more moist, you know, even though it is more finished, it's moist, and anywhere you're moist, you're gonna have worms. So even though there's not that much food here, they're still hanging out. I'm seeing them in there. So I'm going to try and stack this up a little higher this time. Hopefully encourage a few of them. More of the worms to kind of skedaddle, get over to this side, and less hanging out on this side, because this is the side I want to harvest. It is nice. It's great smelling castings, nice and flaky. I'm super into it. I'm gonna stack it up all on one side, and then normally I do like the not quite so finished side, and I just stack it on top of the more finished side. This time I'm gonna try and do less and white. This is the completely finished stuff. This is the stuff that's been in here several weeks, but it's still got some worms in it. So hopefully, you know, trying something new, see how that'll work. Get these guys migrating out of here, and that way I can grab from right here, and I've got some very finished things. It won't be so moist because it'll be up and out, exposed to air, and it'll dry out a little bit, and the worms will just want to leave. Okay, now we'll take a look. Here is some of the stuff we fed like about a month ago, plus the skin on this zucchini that does not seem to want to break down. Of course, it's getting there. Yeah, look at that. Like it's mostly all castings. You do see some cocoons. I mean, a good amount of worms, some cocoons, some more fibrous stuff like bedding style material, some seeds, but it's mostly just castings. So it is well on its way. Just gonna go break it up, aerate it, make sure we're promoting the right types of air breathing bacteria, and we don't get any of that gross smelling anaerobic bacteria in here. You can see a whole big different variety of different sized worms, which means they're happily procreating, which I love. A bunch of the cocoons that we saw a couple weeks back have hatched, and I see all the little babies coming out. It's really nice to see. I like it. If I see a bunch of babies in a handful, I'll pull it up and we'll take a closer look. All right, let's take a look at last feeding and see how that's doing. Feels a little dry in the midst of the bedding, but the worms don't seem to mind it that much. They seem a-okay. I see cocoons, I see adult worms, I see baby worms. It's great. Oh wow. Okay, they're over here on the food. Look, there we got a little right there. You can see like a little pod of babies. They're so small. These guys must have just come out of their cocoons. Here's one of the banana peels. These usually take more than 2 weeks to break down, but it probably won't be here next time I check on it. But I mean, aside from that banana peel, I'm really not finding a whole lot of like easy to eat food, which means that they just have been devouring all the easy to eat stuff. So I haven't been overfeeding them, which is an important thing for me to check, because if you have more food than they can eat, it starts rotting it. And while they do like to eat the bacteria that breaks stuff down, just straight up rotting food isn't good for them. If you see your food just rotting in the bins with the worms, that's not great for them. So you should probably be cutting back on your feeding. I'm very much not seeing the case here, so it probably wouldn't be a problem even if I were to increase feeding. I knew I was going to feed this bin today, so I actually had to run around the garden checking to see if there's anything else we could get. The strawberries are starting to come in here, so I went and I grabbed a bunch of the strawberries that had been damaged by various insects, and we're going to feed those in today as well. Normally we do, for bedding, we do ground up cardboard. This time we have some ground up newspaper, which is also perfectly acceptable as a bedding material. And then on top of that, it will break down a little bit faster, so you have to maybe include a little bit more than you normally would a cardboard. As always, we're going to include our week of coffee grounds. Just breaking up the espresso pucks so that they can get to them, because whenever I miss one and I don't get one, I find it the next week completely undigested, unbroken down. Mix those in. The bedding was a skosh dry when I checked, so I'm just gonna add the water in here, and then add in, here's some of the strawberries that I was just mentioning, and then I also had a big sweet potato that had rotted before we got a chance to get to it. So we're going to see how, like, parts of it's rotted, parts of it's less rotted. We're going to see how this breaks down, how the worms handle that. Also an avocado that went bad on the tree. All right, so I try not to do it too deep, just to make it easier for the worms to get at it. So I'll do kind of a layer and then throw some on top, and then do a second layer, just so they can approach it from more angles more easily. And we'll cover it all up. That way they have a big smorgasbord and they can just go crazy. All right, a little bit more water. You can see we got a bunch of worms all here. We got where all the food is. We got where all the finished composting is. We're going to cover this up so it stays nice and warm so they eat all the way up to the surface. We're going to leave this uncovered so it dries out. So next time I can harvest some. Next time we come back here, I think my my cucumbers should be taking off by then and could use the feeding. So this is earmarked. It's got my cucumber's name on it. So we'll see you next time when we come in. We harvest some castings, and we'll see how the see how we did breaking down that sweet potato, because I'm worried that might take a little bit longer. All right, see you next time.